Welcome to Milton and King's On the Wall podcast, where we engage in conversations with artists, designers, and more. In this episode, we speak with interior designer Jana of Jana Donohoe Designs. If you enjoy these conversations, please take a moment to subscribe and leave us a rating and review. Thanks for joining me, Jana. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. I'm looking forward to having this conversation. You mentioned that you were in Vegas a couple weeks ago when I was in Vegas, and how crazy was that wind?
Oh my gosh, that was so crazy. It was flying there was debris flying all over in the air. It was so weird.
It was when we were walking around, I almost felt like I was getting one of those what do you call them,
Like a wind
like
tunnel.
exfoliation facials, where you because literally there were beads of sand flying in my face, and
Yeah.
it was so weird.
It was so weird. Yeah, it lasted for like 2 days. And I was supposed to go to the Grand Canyon that day, and they canceled it because the winds were so
Yeah, you
high.
couldn't fly a helicopter in that thing.
No, definitely not. And I'm not sure I would have wanted to get in a
Were
helicopter.
you doing the helicopter tour, or were you just doing the drive to the Grand Canyon and then walk around?
No, it was the helicopter tour. Yeah,
Wow. Yeah, that would be scary.
I know. Yeah. So probably not a good first time flying in a helicopter with that high of winds.
Yeah. We were like walking like on a 45-degree angle just to get through it. It was really weird.
It was weird.
But you were in Vegas for like a interior design thing, weren't you?
I was, yeah, for KBIS, which is the Kitchen and Bath Industry Show. It's in conjunction with the IBS show, which is the International Builder Show.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like a 3-day event, and all industry professionals, architects, designers, builders. It's one of the biggest shows of the year to go to. So you get to see all the latest and greatest releases. It's a good fun
Were
show.
you going as just an attendee, or were you going as like a speaker, or?
Yeah, so I actually was on part of a tour through the this group called Design Hounds, and there was 20 of us that were selected to be on this tour. So we basically are sponsored to go, and then you kind of look at all the sponsored booths, and it's a fun, good, in-depth educational way to see KBIS. So that's how I went. But I've been to, it's one of my favorite shows. It's
So you'd been before?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Okay. Is it always in Vegas?
It's not always in Vegas. They were doing like every other year in Orlando.
Okay.
The last couple of years have been in Vegas, and then I just read the other day that it'll be in Vegas for the next 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so it's Vegas for the next 10 years. And quite honestly, the way Vegas is set up can handle, I think, this particular crowd so much better than Orlando. The convention center there it's just really spread out, and the traffic is insane to get to the show. So I think Vegas does a better job of hosting it. And it's Vegas.
Right, which is always fun.
Which is fun in itself, right?
So when you go to those things, those sorts of trade shows and that kind of stuff, what do you find that you get out of it the most? Is it networking? Is it inspiration? Is it kind of being on the cusp of things? What's like your main
oh gosh,
kind of goal, or your
all of it, honestly. The networking is always a big deal. And then just finding those trade partners that you can connect with in person, I think, is a really big deal. When you can have a conversation with your representative in your market, I think that kind of connection is so much better than email or and then inspiration. Yeah, there's just so much inspiration there that you come out of the show, and it's kind of ignited your business, and it's just such a fun show. So I'd say all of that.
Do you go to other ones? I mean, I know there's various trade shows all over the country. Do you sort of make it a thing to go to as many as you can?
I do. The other big one that I try to go to is High Point Market, which is the furniture market. And when I actually lived in North Carolina, it was a lot easier to get to that particular market. Now that I'm in Denver, it's a little tougher, but that's one of the biggest furniture markets. They have it twice a year in April and October, and that's kind of the same thing, just in the furniture realm. So you get to see all the newest releases and the trends,
Hmm.
and actually see product, touch it, feel it, sit in it, all those things, which is a fun time too. And then just getting together with all my design friends is always fun
Yeah, I
too.
bet. So you mentioned that you lived in North Carolina. So when did you move to Colorado?
2 years ago now.
Okay, what prompted the move?
A little more outdoor living, quite honestly, and being a little closer to family.
Okay,
North Carolina was great, but the humidity and the heat got to be a little stifling. So just
okay,
wanted a little more outdoor life for my family.
gotcha.
Yeah, and then after the pandemic, just being closer to family.
Were you originally from Colorado?
I am not from Colorado. I actually grew up in Oregon.
Okay.
Yeah. But I love it here. I do love it here. I love the mountains.
Yeah, nothing can really beat the Rockies.
No,
I mean,
you
I don't know what
can't.
highway that is. I think it's Highway 40 that goes through. Is it the one that goes through Colorado?
It
All I know is I've driven through a few times, and when you kind of go through the
okay.
Rockies, and you see it on the side of like you're sort of cutting right through the middle of it, and it's
Yeah,
breathtaking.
it is very pretty. Yes. It's taken some getting used to being here. It's a different um climate, one.
You mean just like the
And
elevation, or
oh yeah, the elevation, the climate, it's just a completely different type of living here.
yeah, because you're dealing with snow now, right? Which you wouldn't have in North Carolina.
There was snow maybe once every couple years in North Carolina, and just the, like, talk of a flurry in North Carolina, everything would just shut down.
Yeah,
Here, it's like, "Oh, you get 20 inches, just carry on with your life, no
yeah.
big deal."
Put on your snowshoes and get outside.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so you went from Oregon. Is it Oregon to North Carolina to Colorado, or was there anything in
Yep.
between?
I was Oregon, Washington State, North Carolina, and now Colorado.
Okay, so you moved around a bit. Well, that's cool.
A little bit, yeah.
So you have Jana Donohoe Designs. When did you start that business?
I started, in 2013 was when I started Jana Donohoe Designs.
Okay, so you were in North Carolina when you started that.
I was, yep. Yeah, and it was such a great spot to start my business because of just it's the furniture capital of the world, and it was just a really good, place to start, and it was really good to me.
Hmm. How did you get started, or had you worked for anybody else before you branched out on your own?
I did. I interned for a designer for a while I was still in design school. I kind of pivoted. I actually started school with a science degree major.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're a
And
scientist.
then yes. And then bought my first home, and it was a fixer upper, and really kind of got into the nitty gritty of all of it, and decided, hey, I think I like this. I think I'm actually kind of good at it. And
Wow.
so switched degrees and went into interior design instead. So
Where were you going to school for science?
the Raleigh Durham.
Okay. What's
Yeah.
which what sort of science?
I was thinking about, and I never finished my science degree, I guess thankfully, but I was thinking about doing veterinary medicine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. And so you're in the middle of that, and you get a home which is a fixer upper, and that just ignites the interior design bug in you.
It kinda did, and, what's funny is I think I always had it. You can talk to my mom, and my mom's like, "Oh, I always thought you should have been doing that." And I'm like, "Okay, great, mom. You should probably told me that before I spent 3 years doing a science degree." Um, but yeah, so in high school, I used to rearrange I used to rearrange my parents' house when they would go out of town. They would
Hmm.
like leave me to my own devices and they would come back to a completely rearranged house.
And were they happy
S-
about that, or were they like, "What
Not
have you done to our
always.
home?"
Not always. They were like, "What did you do with all my stuff?" So, yeah, so my mom will say, it wasn't always a happy surprise coming home, but I think it really kind of started I think it kind of started early on. My dad was always renovating our houses,
Okay.
and I remember when I was probably like 4th or 5th grade, he just handed me a hammer and was like, "Knock down this wall." So, I did, and then he kept me busy all through high school. He had me, um, roofing storage units, painting houses.
He had
He
you
owned his
roofing.
own business. I did.
Oh,
He
wow.
taught me how to roof, so, yeah, I'd be up there during the summers, and he kept me busy doing all sorts of different things. So, I think, like, the whole, like, renovation kind of interior thing just was kind of blossomed over time, and then I really kinda thought about it more as a career when I got my first house.
So when you're, I mean, clearly you're gaining all these skills with your dad. Um,
Yep.
were you enjoying it at the time, or were you like, "Oh, this sucks. I'm
Oh,
doing chores,"
well,
or
yeah, I mean, yes and no. I think knocking down the wall was kind of fun. I remember, and that's a core memory that I have, so I think I had fun doing that. The roofing, probably not
not?
so
Yeah.
much.
Right.
In the heat in the summertime on a black roof, that was probably not the best, but I did it and he paid me, so, it was fine and I gained experience doing it.
Right. And so when you were deciding to change your career path or your schooling at the time, did you end up going to the same school, or did you have to transfer to a whole different school?
I did, I transferred to the Art Institute, and it was the Art Institute of Raleigh Durham, so it was a degree specifically in interior design.
Okay. And through that program, was it like very like a lot of practical skills as well as theory and
It
or,
definitely a lot of technical skills for sure. Yeah, a lot of computer work. Most of my professors were architects, so very architectural driven.
hmm.
Yeah, so a lot of technical
So you
skills.
had to learn a lot of programs.
Yeah, yeah. So AutoCAD. We did a little bit of AutoCAD, and then Revit was kind of the main one that I learned during that time.
And so when you graduate from that, are you still working under like when you're doing your science degree, are you with the interior designer, like working for an interior designer at the time, or does that sort of happen after?
Yeah, yes. So I started with her when I started going to school for interior design.
Hmm.
And then I worked for her for about 5 years. It was her she was an interior designer and her husband was a builder, and they were together in a building, so I jointly worked with her, and then her husband did high-end spec homes.
Hmm.
So I did all the finished work for his spec homes, and then I worked with her clientele. And then the kind of recession hit, they both decided to kind of close business and they went into real estate instead. And so that was me coming out of design school and I'm like, okay, well, what do I do now? So I started my own business.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that must have been really hard to kind of just get going. Like, where do you begin?
Yeah, I had kids at the time and I just really wanted some flexibility in my schedule. So it was kind of just a let's see how this goes
Hmm.
type of thing. And then I really started gaining clients and traction in the area, and it just really picked up. So
Do you remember your first client when you went on
I
your own?
do I do remember my first client. Yes,
And was that something that you were sort of did you feel prepared? I
I
realized you
I
were working for someone else before that, but did you feel like um, you were ready to sort of make your mark, and this was going to be your first?
I don't know if you're ever fully prepared, to be honest, but I definitely was, like, on the design side, I definitely felt very confident in my design skills at that point.
Hmm.
It's just, when you're trying to figure out how to run a business, because that's definitely one thing they don't teach you in design school is how to run a business. So,
Right.
that definitely took, some twists and turns to learn the business side, but yeah.
What did you find were like sort of I guess, the hard lessons that you had to learn on the business side that you didn't know prior?
Oh gosh. I think the biggest mistakes probably were with trusting trades, to be honest.
Hmm.
I think I'm a trusting person in general, and I think kind of hiring things out trades wise.
Hmm.
So those were some hard lessons when your client puts a lot of trust in you and the design work, and then you're hiring trades to come in and execute your design, and if they're not executing it properly, um, that comes back at you. And so that was a really hard lesson, and that took really years to find like the A team of tradespeople that I could trust. I knew they were going to follow the design. I knew they were going to do a good job. If something did go wrong, they were willing to come back and fix it for my client. So I think those were probably the hardest lessons, and expensive too.
Yeah. So basically, the remedy for that was just, I guess, weeding out the people that weren't that weren't all that great and finding
Yep.
the right people.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's one of the hardest things as an interior designer is finding the right people.
Do you find that once you have that team in place, do you find yourself kind of going back to always the same people because you know you can trust the reliability of
100
their work?
100%. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, when you find your team, you keep them.
And so I imagine that you'd have to, moving from North Carolina to Colorado, you'd sort of have to do that all over again.
Yes, yes. So I am still in search of the A team here.
Okay, because you said
It's
you've
been
been there for 2
interesting.
years. Is it 2
Yeah,
years?
2 years, yeah.
Okay, so that's not that long. So yeah, you'd have to.
Mm-mm.
You probably, like you said, you're still in the midst of figuring out who your go
Yeah.
tos are.
Yeah, yeah, and I have found some good people here, but, it's a different beast here. It's a lot more busy, and there's just a lot more, tradespeople to go through. So,
Hmm.
I have found some good ones that I definitely have formed some relationships with. But yeah, I don't have like the full team quite yet.
Now, when you said it's more busy, are you saying just because, like, population wise, and there's more work and that kind of thing,
Yes,
or
population wise, yeah, yeah,
okay? So even though North Carolina, I mean, the impression that I get is because that's sort of where all the lots of textiles are and furniture companies and that kind of thing, I guess, which would be an interior designer's dream, right? But
yep.
being in Colorado, you find that actually there's more business happening there for you?
There it is just because it's a larger population. North Carolina was just such a s where I was at particularly was just a it was a smaller town.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, here it's just a larger it's
just
much
more
more
happening.
metro here. Yeah. Yeah, lots more going on here.
Okay. And so you found yourself adjusting to the weather okay, and
Yes.
did you on the interior design end, I mean, I guess, are you only doing interiors or are you doing stuff like outside as well for homes? Or are you just
I
doing the
do
inside?
like exterior work.
Yeah.
I do a little exterior work, like, I'll do some patios, some, outdoor livings, exterior paint colors, those types of things. If somebody's got some curb appeal questions, I'll definitely tackle those. Now, I'm not like a big, add-on, addition. That's not my wheelhouse, but definitely paint colors, patios, outdoor living, outdoor kitchens, those types of things I
Did
can
you
definitely do.
did you find it all a bit of an adjustment because of the different climates? Anything like other
Uh,
considerations that you have, or
n Not really. North Carolina is kind of a harsh climate in itself, and I did a lot of work at the beach, so the salt
mm,
air is pretty tough on on things,
Gotcha.
especially outdoor stuff. So I think kind of the same application applies here, just in the opposite direction. It's, we have the snow and still the salt that's around on the roads and things. But yeah, I think it's harsh in both directions. So I didn't have to make a huge adjustment to what I was product wise that I was using or how I was applying things.
I noticed that when I was, looking through your website and like on your Instagram page, you have a very a classic style. I like to think
Mm-hmm.
of it, but you're not afraid of color.
Mm-mm.
Um, so you tend to use a lot of color, but not maximalist. Still very very tasteful, timeless. Do you have something that you define as like this is what I'm going for? That's like a consistent look, across your different clients, or like when people come to you, or do they know they're getting this classic style, or are you able to kind of shift and provide whatever the client needs? Or are there clients where you go like, yeah, what you're wanting is not really what I do?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, my wheelhouse is probably more in that classic timeless look and then infused with color. So if I can definitely design in more modern aesthetics,
Hmm.
but I really, I think, appeal to clients who love some form of color.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants an all neutral space, I can definitely do it. It's not my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
I want the color, I want the vibrancy, and I think that's what my clients are attracted to, is the use of color that I do. So,
The word I was looking for was philosophy. I don't know why
oh,
it slipped my tongue. Like, do you have an interior philosophy that you follow, either from schooling or from your experience or just your personal taste? Do you have like a philosophy that you follow when it comes to applying, design
I
work?
I do. I really try hard to kind of keep my clients' interiors classic. I don't like putting a timestamp on something. So I'm very conscious of that. Like when we go in and do like a kitchen or a bathroom, nobody wants to spend thousands and thousands of dollars redoing a kitchen and bathroom and it's dated in 5 years.
Hmm.
So I really intentionally try to do classic selections, finish selections for them, and then infuse maybe some more trendier things that can be easily changed out later. But yeah, I definitely never want to put a timestamp on anything. I don't want to have somebody go into your house and be like, okay, yeah, you designed this in 2015 when all the grays were so popular and your house is all gray.
Hmm.
I don't want to do that. I want somebody to be like, it was fresh 10 years ago. It's fresh today. Nobody can tell what year that redid it.
I was going to ask you, how do you balance that sort of classic philosophy with, you know, staying on trend or making use of trends? But I think feel like you may have sort of answered that when you said that you try to find things that may be to trend that are easily switched out. So that would that be
Yes,
like, like pillows, or things that
exactly.
you can kind of put in and out and switch up pretty easily.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like some soft goods, those types of things that can easily be switched out, like pillows, you know, what else? Artwork can easily be switched out, but like the hard finishes, hardwood
Hmm.
flooring, kitchen cabinets, countertops, those aren't as easily um, switched out. So we try to keep those kind of classic.
Right.
Um, but yeah, yeah.
I do love your style. It's such a beautiful classic style. If anybody has the time, they should check out your Instagram feed. It's full of just beautifully designed spaces.
Thank
Um,
you.
so you came on my radar when it came to the one room challenge. Um, you participated in that. I want to say it was it the first one was that you did, or first one that I was aware where I became aware of you was, I think it was the spring 2023, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
last year around this time, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
that's right. It was a year ago. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Time flies.
Um, so that was when you came on my radar. Can you just speak a little bit about like what that project was and what your goals were and kind of what you implemented to create that space?
Yeah, sure. So the one room challenge, that particular one last spring, I decided to tackle my breakfast nook area. We were in a new house and it was just boring and bland and white. It was just kind of a white blank canvas and had zero personality. So I was really trying to infuse my personality, a little bit of North Carolina coming back over here into the space. And then I also needed some additional storage space because my kitchen is not that big. So the breakfast nook, I did some built-ins and then used your wallpaper, the Dancing Brolgas wallpaper in that space, and yeah, just really infused some life into it, and it feels so much more homey and cozy, and um, I love being in that space. It's one of my favorite spaces in my house now.
So what part of it would you say was the North Carolina part?
I the wallpaper and the
Oh, okay.
color for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think just kind of the whimsical style of the birds
Hmm.
and then the kind of powder blue, I think those are a little bit more of a southern feel or a
Hmm.
coastal feel, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone that describes that space is they always say coastal. So I'm like, yeah, it's in the middle of North of Colorado, but that's okay.
Funny.
We'll bring some coast to Colorado.
Right. Huh. Yeah, I didn't realize that that was sort of that was the association, but I guess now that I think about it, I
Yeah.
suppose it could be.
Yeah.
Um, but did you have that in mind? Like, did you know that, or was that just something that you did and then people said, "Oh, it's like this"?
I mean, yes
Was
and
it conscious?
no.
Were you consciously making that choice?
I think I was consciously making a choice to bring a little Southern infusion into it, but not
Hmm.
necessarily I wouldn't have classified it as a coastal style,
Hmm.
but that's what everybody that describes it associates it with.
Hmm. Interesting. And then so after that, you did you did another one room challenge. And this was just this past fall.
Mhm.
Um, and that area, was that just a like an office space that you did,
So I
or a
did for the
mudroom, right?
fall. Yeah, I did both. I did both. So I did my office, my home office, and a mud room, it's kind of a back room entrance, and
Hmm.
I guess it's a little mud room. But yeah, I did those two spaces for the fall one room challenge.
Gotcha. And this time you actually ended up using the grass cloth wallpaper on the ceiling,
I
which
did.
which I mean, I've seen people do ceiling installs, and I always feel bad for them when they do. Um, I mean, how did you do it? How did you go about it? Because you did it by yourself, didn't you?
I did do it by myself. Yes. So I had originally called an installer because one, I have never installed grass. I've spec'd it several times for my clients, so I knew the properties of grass cloth, and I know it's not the easiest thing to work with.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like my DIY skills were up to par with dealing with the grass cloth. So I actually called my installer and she wouldn't do it because I had 10-foot ceilings and she wouldn't get on a ladder to do 10-foot ceilings for so
Huh.
yeah, and then, she kinda laughed at me like, "Oh, you're why are you putting grass cloth on the ceiling?" Like and I'm like, "Well, I'm a designer, it's kind of what we do different things." So I'm like,
Yeah.
"Alright, well," then I was kind of running out of time, so I'm like, "Alright, I'm just gonna tackle this myself. I know the properties, we're gonna go for it. So I did do it myself. Um, it was definitely not the easiest thing to do, putting wallpaper on a ceiling, but
Yeah.
thankfully it was a small space, so I was able to get it. But yeah, I love how it turned out. I love the grass cloth on the ceiling. It just adds such a beautiful, rich texture. I mean, so now I feel more confident for myself to work with grass cloth.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe I won't do it on the ceiling next time.
I guess the one good thing too is it's you know, just I mean the ceiling's hard enough as it is, but
Yeah.
I guess the one benefit would be that there's no bends, there's no curves to go around, there's no wall to go, corners or anything like that. You're dealing with
Right.
just a flat surface, which because grass cloth, it can crease, it's not as forgiving a lot of times that
It's
as
not,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah. It's not as forgiving, yeah, and it doesn't bend. It just isn't as flexible as other wallpaper, so
right.
it's harder to work with, but because of the small space that I had, and it was, I think, 2 runs, I'm like, "Okay, I can do this. I can
Yeah.
do 2 runs." So, yeah, so I did tackle it by myself, but it took a while to get it to stay up there, and I had to
Hmm.
hold it, and then, just the sheer, gravitation of
Right.
holding your arms up there and making sure it's sticking and not falling back down on my head.
Yeah, you would have gotten sore, I would imagine.
Yeah, yeah, so
Sore shoulders.
yeah, exactly. So it was fun, but it was definitely worth it in the end to do it.
I guess that's one of the things I find fascinating about being in interior design. I guess someone who's good at interior design and is always sort of thinking out of the box, because like you said, when you talk to your installer and they're like, "I'm not doing that. Why are you doing that?" And then you go ahead and go, "Well, I'm doing it because this is what I do." You know,
Yeah.
I guess is there any part of you at that moment that goes, um, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing this because these people think it's crazy to do, or are you confident enough to go like, no, this is a great idea, like whether they want to do it or not is you know
Yeah.
inconsequential. Yeah, I know that this is the right thing to do.
Yeah, no, I had no doubt in my mind that that's what I wanted to do. I was fully confident, that that was something I wanted to do. So I'm like, the way I look at it is, I'm a designer. People hire me for a vision and to do different things.
Yeah.
And sometimes people don't get it, and that's okay. But yeah, I'm fully confident. I was fully confident in my design decision. So I had no doubt.
See, I think I mean, that's what I would want if I was hiring an interior designer. I would want someone who could think outside the box and go like, well, maybe try this or try this here. It's even stuff that you had never done before, but somehow you just knew that this was going to be like the right move. I think
Yeah.
that's what you want, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think that's why people hire designers, because they can't think of those ideas on their own. And I think that designers just have the ability to bring your interiors to that next level that the homeowners can't quite achieve. So, yeah, I think we have to think out of the box. We have to think differently about applications and doing things, and it's just we're elevating, our client's vision to something like, "Oh, wow, I never would have thought of that." And so my response to is, that's why you're paying me the big bucks.
Right. Yeah, you want someone that can have a vision like that.
Yeah.
Wow. So over the Christmas season, you had a pretty cool opportunity. Is that something you can talk about?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I was excited when I saw your post. I was like, "Oh my gosh." So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you were able to do?
So during the holiday season, this past Thanksgiving 2023, I had the opportunity of a lifetime, and that was to go decorate the White House for the holiday season. It was a pretty honorable situation that I was in. And so how I originally got into that was, they reached out to me August of last year to see if I wanted to apply to be a decorator for the holiday season. And to be honest, I originally thought it was spam. And
Hmm.
then I started looking at the email address. I'm like, I think this is real. So I'm like,
Was it like at whitehouse.gov or
it,
something?
yeah, it was like who, whatever the White House operations or something. I looked it up. It was
Yeah.
legit. So I'm
How
like,
did you
okay.
do you wonder, like, how did you end up getting on their radar? Do you know?
Yes, I do. So one of my clients from North Carolina went and worked at the White House, and I believe he threw my name kind of out there, and so that's how that opportunity came
Oh,
about, I
very
believe.
cool.
Yes. So I applied, and I'm like, okay, what are the chances I'm actually going to get this? I really was not confident that I was going to get it.
Mhm.
And then they emailed me probably late September and they said, congratulations, you have like a provisional invitation to join us, but you have to pass all these background checks and things like that. So I had to fill out all this additional information. And then late October is when I got the official invitation to go and decorate the White House. And then I had to be there the day after Thanksgiving. So I flew out Thanksgiving Day to Washington, D.C.
Oh, wow.
And they are very, very tight-lipped on the theme that they have that particular year. So I literally walked in not knowing a thing.
Hmm.
So you walk in and they take your phone, so you can't disclose anything until they disclose it to the media.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so I not only had the opportunity to be in the White House, but then I was selected to decorate the West Wing,
Wow.
which included the Oval Office, the Vice President's office, the Chief of Staff, the Roosevelt Room, the Cabinet Room, all of the famous rooms that you think of when you think of the West Wing. So it
That's
was it
incredible.
was quite an experience and opportunity. Just being in the West Wing was phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, in the presence of where they have made who knows what many how many decisions,
Yeah,
that have affected the country and the world. It's just
yeah,
it's a
it's pretty surreal
yeah.
being in that space and realizing all the history and all of the really, really big decisions that have been made over time. It's just kind of just hits you and you're like, wow.
Yeah. And the people that have been in and out of there, world leaders.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were you the only designer? Were there more, like, multiple designers, or?
There was, yeah. So there in total, there was 300
Oh,
designers
wow.
that were because you have 4 days to decorate the entire White House. So there was 300 that were selected, and I heard that it was out of 5,000 applied.
Holy moly.
S- Yes, so there's 300 of us in total, and then we're divided into groups. And then my particular group that tackled the West Wing was 11. So there was 11 of us in the group that did the West Wing, and then we did a little bit on the East Wing. We did the Palm Room, which is like the very last room before you get to the West Wing. So those were kind of our areas that we stuck to, and the West Wing was handled completely different. It's a completely different security situation
Mhm.
over there. So it was interesting. It was a lot of fun, but it was definitely interesting
Yeah.
going through the different security.
And so, were you just sort of, like, styling and decorating to their specs and what they had, or were they asking you for your opinion on things, or did you have to, like, how did you work with 11 other designers? How did that
Um
process work?
so the first lady chooses a theme and the theme is picked. I mean, it's probably they're probably discussing it right now for this coming year. So
Hmm.
they pick this theme and then you stick within this theme, and then you kind of go from there. But with the way that the West Wing worked is we could only be in rooms rooms of 4, so I only worked with like 4 other people at a time,
Mhm.
and not all of us were designers. There was professional florists in the mix, so we all got along really well. We all had different skill sets, and
Ah,
so
okay.
so yeah, it was really fun, and I think we all brought something to the table.
So you were able to actually like you had design input into.
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so design input, and then just kind of shushing and adding things and just kind of standing back and kind of making adjustments. But yeah, so the theme was kind of whimsical, and then we just kind of stuck within this whimsical theme that the rest of the White House was in, and then we just with the West Wing side, we did it a little less of the childlike whimsical that the East Wing was. It was a little more sophisticated, I guess you
Hmm.
could say, over there.
But it was all
But
for
yeah, it was
Christmas, right? So it was all Christmas themes.
oh yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So the theme was what was it? Wonder and joy. It was based off of the night before Christmas. It was
Okay.
like the 200th anniversary for that poem, so that's what it was based off of.
Oh, wow, how cool. And so while you're there, you're there for you said 4 days? Is that right?
Mhm. Yep,
So you're
4
having to get
days.
everything done in 4 days. So how does that go
Yes.
in terms of like, I don't know, if you need to source something or you need to, or is everything just sort of there already for you, or how does that
It
work?
is, yes. So they have a whole crew that is strictly dedicated to going and getting everything from an offsite warehouse.
Okay.
So they bring everything, and what I thought was really interesting is um, about 80% of the decorations are reused. They're from Christmas past, so we got to reuse a lot of things and reinvent a lot of old Christmas decorations into new things. So I
Okay.
thought that was really kind of neat that they reuse things. So we had um these gold leaves that we used from the Clinton administration.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so if that tells you how old they were, but yeah, we just reused them and reinvented them in different ways. But yeah, I liked that.
Huh. And so I mean that there's something cool about that too. I mean, because you're sort of playing with history in a way,
Mhm.
from previous administrations, previous Christmas setups and things like that. Like that's really neat.
Ye Yeah, yeah, it was really neat, and one of the interesting things that I found out is when I was in the Oval Office, um, the the rug in the Oval Office was also from the Clinton administration. So Biden chose past I guess you can pick something new, completely new when you come in to
Hmm.
term, or you can use past presidents things, and he reused everything that was in the Oval Office from past times. So I thought that was interesting.
Huh. How cool.
Yeah,
So were you able to? I'm guessing like while you were there, I'm guessing you met the first lady,
I did.
and did you meet the president or just the first lady? Or
I did not meet the president. I just the first lady. Yeah.
what about it? Any of the like staff members? Like, were you able to meet anybody that you might see? It's like someone would see on TV, kind of thing.
Um, I didn't the chief of staff came in one day. I didn't actually meet them. We had to kind of get out of the way because they were coming in. So
Hmm.
I didn't meet them, but yeah, just like a lot of Secret Service, we got to know a lot of the Secret Service very well
Yeah.
because they were watching us the whole time.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, the first lady was really I think it as far as who you would see on TV and would know really well.
Aside from obviously the hustle and bustle of getting the place in order, were you able to see much going on? Like, was it a busy place, or was it was it sort of just busy with what you guys were doing, or did you actually see like other business happening?
Oh, like the White House business?
Yeah, just like things. Like when you were there, were you seeing sort of like people in and out and kind of the hustle and bustle of running the White House happening, or were you
Mhm.
kind of just busy with,
We
the
were
design
definitely very
stuff?
busy. Since we were over there during the Thanksgiving break, most people, and it was a weekend also, so because it was Friday through Monday, most people were out.
Oh, okay.
So
Gotcha.
yeah, yeah. So I didn't know. We didn't see a lot of business other than when the chief of staff came in and his secretary. That was about it. And
Hmm.
then we were told like on Sunday, we had like a hard deadline that we had to be out of the Oval Office because the president they were coming back from wherever they were
Hmm.
from their break, so we had to be out of there. So we didn't see any of that.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, unfortunate that you had to probably cut your family Thanksgiving short, but what a cool thing to have to do.
Yeah, yeah. It was okay to sacrifice for the country for a weekend.
Yeah. Did you get put up in
Thanksgiving is
a hotel nearby, or?
Yeah, yeah, it was a hotel literally right across the street from the White House, so I walked across the street, got checked in through the guard station, and then walked into the White House. It was really easy.
That's so cool. What an experience of a lifetime, really.
It really was. It was such a fun experience. So I think I hope that I get, the opportunity to go back again. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna hopefully apply again this year.
Yeah, why not?
There was a couple designers that I had talked to that have gone multiple years. So yeah, we'll try
Yeah.
it again, hopefully.
And it looks great on the resume.
It it does look good on the resume.
Yeah. People ask,
Everybody's like, "What?
yeah,
He
what houses
decorated the White House?"
what houses have you done? Oh, the White House.
The White House,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm just a little designer. Oh, but I did do the White House.
Right. Wow.
So I hope I get to go back. Now, I'll have to say if I don't get the West Wing again, I don't know if it's gonna be like, "Oh, well, this is kinda
Yeah.
disappointing."
I only got the
I
war
did the
room.
West Wing. Exactly.
Wow. Well, that's awesome. Congratulations on that whole thing. I mean, that's
Thank
such a
you,
cool
yeah.
thing. Did you find, or have you found, from doing, whether it's like the one room challenge stuff, or whether it's doing the White House stuff, have you found that you've gained clients from doing these things and getting sort of like just stuff that's maybe a little bit more, I guess, public facing?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think clients, one, like to see what you're doing. And I don't know if it's like an immediate client response. Usually with design, people they kind of follow you, especially in social media. They kind of
Hmm.
follow you for a while and kind of see what you're doing
Right.
before they reach out because we have such a personal um relationship with our clients. I mean, we really get into the nitty-gritty, so they have to trust us and they have to feel like they know us before they're like, "Hey, you're my designer. I want you to come in and design my house." So,
Hmm.
it definitely helps when I do things in my own house and they can kind of see the process of it
Yeah.
all. And then with the White House, I think that's just an extra layer of like, "Wow, okay, you're that's kind of cool."
Right. Well, I guess because too, if you're doing a client's home, you're not necessarily. I suppose you can sometimes, but you're not necessarily always putting that on your social media, are you? Because it's private.
What
Like if you
my
use like,
clients.
yeah, like a client's home, you're not able to always necessarily showcase that, are you?
Right, yeah. Yeah, I try to be respectful of people's homes, so I quite often don't put those on my social until the finished product is ready to go.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I know a lot of people do like especially with new builds it's easier to do a little more behind the scenes, but when you're coming in with renovations and these are people's homes, it's a private thing. So, I try not to air that too much on any of my social channels.
Right. So I guess that's the benefit of doing like the Winter Challenge, because you can show, like,
Yeah.
you're doing your own home and you're happy to, display that
Yeah,
for
I
people.
don't care. Yeah. You wanna see my dog? Okay, here's my dog. Yeah. Here's my dog eating my shoes. This is why I'm doing my mudroom, so I can hide my shoes.
How do you feel about, the social media space? Is that something that you're consciously always keeping up to date on for business purposes, or what's your sort of relationship with social media?
I think so. I think people I try to stay up to date, particularly on Facebook and Instagram, probably more so than Facebook. But I
Hmm.
think it's important to have those channels where clients can come and see what you're doing. So it's kind of a secondary portfolio,
Yeah.
you know, other than my website. And honestly, my website doesn't even have all of my up to date photos on it. So really, kind of Instagram is my portfolio. So I think it is
Right.
important to stay up to date there. And then I think people just, particularly with stories, people can watch the stories and kind of get to know you more than, a website. They kind of get to know your personality and what you're all about a little more so there. So I do think social media is important, to kind of show who you are.
Yeah, I'm always seeing you have your morning cup of coffee.
Yes, I always have my morning coffee.
How do you like your coffee?
How do I like
Yeah,
it?
like how do you take it?
I take it with a little bit of oat milk. That's it. I keep it really simple. I usually put my, collagen powder in it too.
Oh,
So it's my collagen powder and then a little bit of oat milk. And I've over the years have kind of eliminated creamer and sugar, and now it's just it's really simple.
gotcha. Yeah, I always see those images. It's like your coffee in some beautiful scenescape. I mean, is that what are we looking at usually when we see that? Is it just your? Is that
It's
like your?
right outside my door. Yeah, what you're talking about when I show the mountains?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's right outside my front door. That's what I look at.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes, so I try to show the different, just different viewpoints from what I'm looking at in the morning time.
Yeah, it's a great way to start the day.
It is, and they're always different too, the shadows are always different, and,
Hmm.
sometimes we have the snow, sometimes the sun's setting on it different or rising, I guess, on it
Yeah.
differently, so it's one of my favorite things to do in the morning is go look at my mountains.
Your mountains. Um,
Yep, they're mine, they're no one else's.
so if someone, what sort of advice would you give someone? I guess let's say they're not necessarily ready to, um, hire an interior designer. What would you tell somebody who's kind of, they're looking at their space, they're in their home, they want to do something, um, but maybe they're not, maybe they don't have the economic means to afford an interior designer. Do you have any like sort of tips or recommendations, like I guess for first steps, or for someone to kind of take, or something to think about in terms of things that they could do to their space that would be, um, I guess not super costly, but something that's effective in your
Yeah,
experience?
I think if using tools like Instagram and Pinterest to start getting some inspiration first and really getting a sense of what you like is really important. And then just going through those inspiration photos and kind of picking the elements that you're really attracted to, and then trying to incorporate those within your space. I think paint is always one of the cheapest, best ways that you can update a space,
Mhm.
and it's cheap. You can easily change it. So those things, I think, don't be afraid to do. Don't be afraid to paint a wall or two. Test things out,
Yeah.
and then just really get inspiration. And if you don't know, there's so many designers like myself that offer consultations for pretty inexpensively. So just, you know, pick an interior designer's brains. Like I do a 2-hour consult for potential clients, and sometimes the 2 hours with that client just picking my brain and giving them ideas of what to do and how to execute it is well worth it for the client. Some of them go on to hire me for the full scope of the project, and some of them are perfectly happy doing things themselves now that they have a direction. So I would
Mm.
say those types of things definitely look into.
That's really invaluable to be able to get a consultation with you for that period of time. Um, how does somebody go about doing that?
Yeah, I think look in your area, call somebody that you feel like has a good aesthetic that meets what you like, and call and have a conversation with them. I do a 15-minute discovery call with any potential clients, so they can call me, they can pick my brain. We can talk about what their vision is, what they're liking, and if they feel comfortable within that 15 minutes to hire me for a consultation, then I'll go and we'll schedule that. But I think just start calling designers that you feel connected with, and they have like a good aesthetic that resonates with you.
But if they wanted to specifically hire you, would they go to your Instagram? Would they go to your website? What's the best way to sort of get a hold of you to get something like that going?
Yeah, so the best way to get a hold of me is to go to my website, and I have a contact me page, and fill out that information, and then I will schedule a discovery call with you, and then we'll set up that 15 minutes and talk about what your project is.
And what's the website?
It's Jana, JanaDonohoe designs.com. So Jana Donohoe designs.com.
Cool. Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes as well in case anybody's interested. They can just click on that and go straight to your site and book a consult, or like you said, that 15-minute introduction call to see if if you mesh well and are on the same page with things.
Yeah,
I think that's really
perfect.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you for joining me. I am almost taking up an hour of your time, but I appreciate you making the time on this Friday to.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's finally nice to put a voice to all the emails, I guess.
Yeah, it's always interesting, but yeah, hopefully we'll connect again, whether through email or even on the podcast or something in the future, just to kind of catch up and see what's going on with you and what new projects you have going on.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I'm always doing projects and always looking for wallpaper.
Well, you know where to come.
I do. I do know where to come. You guys have some really fun, unique designs, and that's what I love about Milton and King.
Well, thank you so much, Jana. Let's touch base again soon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much, Chris.